Greetings to you and welcome to this course on time management and prioritization techniques. In this lesson, we're going to discuss some of the techniques that you can use to manage your time effectively. As an administrative assistant, you need to master the art of time management and how to prioritize tasks. Let's get started. The very first technique which you need to know and master well is to use the prioritization table. The prioritization table is made up of 4 quadrants. The first quadrant reflects the things that you must do. The second quadrant represents the things that you can schedule and do. The third quadrant represents the things that you can delegate to other co-workers in the office, while the fourth quadrant represents things that you can as well ignore, delete, or remove them from your schedule. The things that you must do are the things that are urgent and important. These are things that have a timeline and have consequences if they are not done. If you have something you must finish before a given date, and there is a consequence for which you will suffer if you do not finish it, these are things that are urgent and are important to be done. You have to do these things immediately. The ones that you can schedule are the things that are very important. You have consequences if you do not do it, but are not urgent, which means that you do not have a timeline to do it. These things, you can schedule them and do them whenever you are free. Then you have the things that are not so important. These are things that you do not have consequences for not doing. They are not very important and they are very urgent. It means there are things that must be done within a given timeline. There is a timeline for it, but there is no consequence for not doing it. So these things, you can delegate them to co-workers in the office to ensure that every task that you are faced with is done. But with these ones that you can delegate, that's the things that fall in the fourth quadrant, you must not do it yourself because they do not have consequences if not done, and as well if not done well. So you can give it to some other person to just do it. You can just do it just like that. Then the last ones are the category of the things that are not important at all and they are not urgent. It means you do not have consequences if you do not do it, and you do not have a timeline for doing it. This includes social interactions, talking on WhatsApp. If a friend sends you a message, you must not respond that message within a given timeline. You must not even respond to that message. So you don't have a timeline and you don't have any consequence for responding to such a message. So that type of task, you can as well ignore them because you are not forced to do it. The second technique which you're going to apply is time blocking. You block specific periods of time for specific tasks. Let's take, for example, we know that your work day will start in the morning, you go through the afternoon period and the evening, and you return home and rest. You can block the morning periods to respond to letters that are very important. Remember, we have checked our prioritization table. It means that in the morning, the first thing you do in the morning are the things that you must do. Those are the things that are important and have a time limit for them to be done. You can take the morning period, which is the time when you are going to perform at your best, and you do these things in the morning. Then in the afternoon, you can do the things that you are scheduled. That is the things that are important but do not have a time limit, are not very urgent. You can set them and do them in the afternoon. Then when you are through and you're returning home, maybe you are relaxed and you're back home, you can now do the things that were not so important and you were not bound by time. During the day, you delegate the tasks that were important but not urgent to co-workers. Then the third technique, which we're going to be discussing today, is the 80-20 rule. It's also known as the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle states that 80% of your results depend on 20% of your actions. It means that what you're going to be judged 80% by 20% of what you do. In practice, you cannot do everything. You cannot do all of what you're supposed to do. But there are some very important things that if you do just one of those things, it's going to give you a good score. So you're going to identify 20% of the task that is more important to you, execute these tasks very well, and you're going to have 80% of your score or 80% of your results based on this 20% that you have done. Let us take, for example, let's give a practical example here that you have 8 tasks to do. If you have 8 things or 10 things to do, if you have 10 things to do, you must not even do up to 5. All right? The rule states that you're going to be judged by how well you do just 2 of those things. Just 2 of those things. We talk of results. So identify the 2 things that means a lot. Remember, you're working for somebody or for an organization or for an institution. So identify the 2 out of 10 things that matter a lot to your boss or to your organization, and you do those 2 things. Obtain the results for those 2 things, and you're going to score 80%. That is the Pareto principle. The third thing that we're going to discuss, or the fourth thing we're going to discuss, is the timed work sprints. Timed work sprints. Timed work sprints is very it's something that we get into our work schedule without working in blocks. Every task that you are to execute is made up of sprints. All right? Every task that you are to execute is made up of sprints. And these sprints, which we call porodos, these little porodos are made up of 25 minutes task. It means if you have to write a report, make sure that you break the steps in writing that report into porodos or timed sprints or sprints. Little things that you'll be able to do within 25 minutes. So anything you will do for 25 minutes, you put it together. After 25 minutes, take a rest for 5 minutes. Okay? So you can decide that, okay, for your report, you will need data. You take 25 minutes to collect the data. After you have collected the data for the 25 minutes, you stop. You give yourself 5 minutes of rest. During that 5 minutes, you can check your social media, and then you relax. After 5 minutes, you take another 25 minutes of porodo or 25 minutes of sprint. During the 25 minutes, you can decide to bring out the layout of your report to know that you're going to have an introduction, you're going to have the agenda, you're going to have the points that were raised in discussion, you're going to bring out the recommendations, and you're going to have a conclusion. You have brought out the layout of your report, and now you can highlight some points that you're going to discuss in your report. For 25 minutes, once the 25 minutes is over, you go again for another 5 minutes break. Then you come back again. This permits you to be at your highest level of performance at all times. You don't need to take, because you have a report that will take you 5 hours, you just take 5 hours, you work for 5 long hours. No, break the 5 hours into 25 minutes and intersperse these 25 minutes with 5 minutes of breaks. And when you have had 4 porodos, 4 successive sprints of 25 minutes, you can now take a 20-minute long rest. And just like that, you refresh yourself, you relax, and you come back, and you're at the best possible way. The last time management and prioritization technique that we're going to discuss is delegation and automation. You are supposed to have the ability to identify the things that you can delegate out. You can give it out to some other person to do. You do not have 10 hands. You can only do your best when you're doing the things that you know how to do very well. But as an administrative assistant, you're a jack of all trades. It means you are supposed to do just everything. But when to have the results, you must not be the one doing it. Some other person can do it for you. Some other person in the office can do it for you. And how do you get this done? You have to delegate tasks to other people. You identify who can do what for you. Remember, you're going to take the credits for the job done. And you also take the responsibility if it is not well done. That is why you have to identify who can do what for you. And you also need to automate your task. If there is something, these days we use computers. If you can automate a task like calculations, if you have calculations to do in the office, you must not have to punch the calculator all the time. The computer is there, Excel is there to help you automate, to help you do repetitive tasks for you. That is known as automation, doing things without necessarily involving your physical presence. Right, it has brought us to the end of this other lesson. Thanks very much for being a part of this lesson, and see you in the next lesson.